I'm Bill with Trektop. Today we're going to be walking through the install on the new Trektop for the two-door Bronco. So let's get started. So getting started, when the Trektop arrives, it's going to come in two boxes. One is going to be labeled for the soft goods, and then one is for the hardware. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to put the soft goods off to the side for now, and we're going to pull out the hardware box to start. And we're going to go through the parts, familiarize ourselves both with the installation instructions and those parts before we get started. All right, you have your right and left hand upper door rails. You have your vertical window retainers, our right and left hand tailgate bar retainers, the tailgate bar, our main pivot brackets, 1.5 bow control links, 2 bow control links, our Tubo, upper quarter window retainers, 1.5 bow, right and left hand side rails, right and left hand link control brackets, right and left hand belt rails, rear halo attach brackets, our belt seals, 1 bow foams, vertical window retainer foams, and our associated hardware. So the tools that we will need for this install, pretty short list, but we do have them laid out here. So you have your T25, T30, and T50 Torx drivers, M5 Allen, you'll need a ratchet, a pair of scissors, flat blade screwdriver, and then a soft cloth and a 50-50 alcohol solution or alcohol wipes. Okay, so now that we've gone through the hard goods box, we're going to open up the second one, which is the soft goods. So within the soft goods box, you're going to have a few things. Right and left hand closeout films. You're going to have your top deck that has the rear halo and the header included. You have your 2 quarter windows, and you have your rear window. Now we're going to start by prepping the vehicle. To do that, the first thing we're going to be doing is cleaning the top here. We're going to start from this edge all the way down through this feature line. We're going to do that using our clean cloth and our 50-50 alcohol water mix or the alcohol swabs from earlier. Okay, now that we have the vehicle clean, we're going to be installing our closeout films. They are handed and they are cut out so that they will match the body lines on the vehicle. So just take your time, make sure we have the right ones. The 3 cutouts are going to go around the 3 bolts on the rear fender. And we're going to start with the front, and then there's going to be a rear, same on both sides. So to install, we line these up. One, 2, and 3. Making sure to hold that alignment. We're going to flex the back and allow that to roll out. This out, push it flat. Folding back. Following the same procedure. And now we'll repeat the process on the other side. Now that we have the front closeout film installed, we're going to install the rear. Once again, we're looking for the same cutout, follows the body line, both cutouts for the bolts on the fender, and we're going to repeat the same process. Putting this up, wetting out one side, and then going to the other. The next step is going to be installing our belt seals. This is going to sit along the outer channel here, all the way around, starting up at the front of the rear fender, wrapping around the back. When we get to the back, we're going to take a pair of scissors and cut this to match the length. For installing, all you're going to do, pull back on the tab, place the adhesive on, and slowly work your way down the side of the vehicle. Again, as we wrap this back corner and come to the end, we're going to use a pair of scissors and cut it off to match the back of the vehicle. And now we'll repeat on the other side. Okay, so the next step is going to be installing our vertical window retainers. These are going to sit right here on the B-pillar. To do this install, we're going to remove the 3 factory bolts with our T30. We're going to go ahead and hold on to these till later in case we go back to our hardtop vehicle. However, when we do install the new one, there are new bolts that are included in the kit. Again, we'll set these off to the side and installing our vertical window retainer. Tightening up with our T30. Now that this is tightened up, we'll go ahead and repeat on the other side. To finish the vertical window retainer install, we're going to install this foam on the top. Just keeping in mind there is a right and a left hand, so if you look at the profile, you're looking for this point, and that is going to coincide right here at the top. So we're going to remove the backing, exposing the adhesive. We're going to line that up and press that in place. Once this is done, we'll repeat on the other side. The next step is going to be installing our tailgate bar retainers, which encompass the corner here and come down and mount on the side. To do that step, we're going to have to release the trim from the mounts in a few spots here. Very simple and straightforward, but we'll be able to do that so we can get to the fastener and then button it all back up. So to start, There's a small piece of trim on the inside. You just rock that up out of the way. And then we're going to go to the main body here and gently pull back, releasing those snaps and exposing the fastener hole. Okay, now that we have the trim pulled back and we have access to the lower mounting hole, we're going to install our tailgate bar retainers. To do that, we set that on top of the corner. And aligning the bottom hole here, okay, with this in place, we're going to install our lower bolt, which is the M6x15 from the kit. We're just going to get this finger tight to start. And then we're going to take 2 of the hardtop bolts that we retained from earlier, and these are going to go into their stock positions. Once again, finger tight until we can get everything straightened out. Now we'll be able to go back and tighten everything up. Okay, now that we've gone and tightened up our M6 bolt, we're going to go ahead and press the trim back in place till you hear that nice positive snap. And do that all the way along, and then we're going to repeat on the other side. Now that we have our tailgate bar retainers in place, we're now going to install our belt rails onto the vehicle. To do that, we're going to use 2 of the hardtop fasteners. Once again, we're using those. It's going to be for these 2 locations. And then in the back, we're going to tie our belt rail back into our tailgate bar retainer with an M6x15 from the kit. So we're going to put that on here. Locating those fasteners, we're just going to go finger tight to start. Now that we have everything finger tight, we're going to tighten everything up with our T30 for the M6 and our T50 for the hardtop bolts. One thing to keep in mind while we're doing this is we want to make sure that we're lining up the back corner here, and then also the top of the belt rail with the vertical retainer. As we tighten all this down, we'll get that in alignment. That's really going to help us later on when we go to install the quarter windows. And now we'll repeat the process on the other side. For the next step, we're going to install our door rails. To do that, we are going to remove the front factory fastener and the outer latch fastener. To do that, we're going to use a T50. We're going to pull that out, retain these. They will be used again. With these fasteners out, we're going to put the door rail in place. As we do this, you are going to need one of the spacers from the kit. It is going to be used in the rear position. So we'll put that there, line up our door rail, and then reinsert those bolts that we just removed. Once both are aligned and finger tight, we can use our T50 to tighten them up, and then we'll repeat the process on the other side. The next step is to install our main pivot brackets. To do that, we're going to be removing the rear factory bolt. And we're going to reuse this one. We're also going to be using a M8 with the 5mm in the rear, and we're going to have a spacer up front. So for correct orientation, you want to make sure that the bumpers are facing up and they're towards the rear of the vehicle. So the bracket will sit like this once we've bolted it down in its correct position. Using our T50, we remove the factory bolt. This one will get the 5.5 spacer from our kit, so we'll place that there. And holding our bracket in place, we will reinsert the factory bolt. Getting that finger tight, move to the rear with the M8 and get that finger tight as well. Now we can come back with our T50 and our 5mm Allen and tighten these down. Now with this all tightened up, we're going to repeat on the other side. The next step is going to be installing our link control bracket. This is a handed part, so we'll do it on both sides of the vehicle, but just remember, you're looking for the arm to be forward in vehicle position, and we're going to use some of the M8 bolts from the kit, here and here. And we're going to do finger tight, and then we'll come back with the 5mm Allen. Now that we've tightened up this side, we'll repeat on the other side. Now we're going to install our rear halo attach brackets. Those go up here on top of the vehicle, so climbing up in the back may make this a little bit easier. To ensure you have the proper orientation on the bracket, you're looking, there's a hole and a slot. The hole faces forward in the vehicle, so we're going to place this down using the M8s from our kit. Tighten this down and repeat on the other side. We're going to start the assembly on the soft goods. To do that, it is beneficial to find a table to lay out the deck. We're going to lay it out facing up, and we're going to start over here on our one bow, taking this, turning it over so that we have access to these riv nuts on either side. The first step is taking our side rails, and we're going to lay these in place, and using the M6x15s from the kit and our T30, we're going to tighten this down. Helps get them finger tight to start. And then taking our T30, we're going to go ahead and tighten those up. With this side done, we're going to go ahead and repeat it on the other side. Now that we have the side rails on, we're going to start assembling the bows. To do that, we're going to start at the front with the 1.5, and we're going to work our way back to the 2 and on from there. So moving forward, we're going to take our 1.5 bow. Two things to keep in mind orientation wise. We want to make sure that this tab is facing down on both sides. We're going to go ahead and put this on. There's a tab on the side rails. We want to slip the knuckle over that on either side. And then we're going to come back with our pivot knuckle screw and our T30. We're going to snug this down into place. Now that this side's done, we're going to go ahead and repeat on the other side. With our 1.5 bow in place, we're now going to move on to the 2 bow. It's going to attach to the side rails in a very similar manner. We have these tabs, and then we're going to attach that to the knuckles on the bow. So first, we're going to take our 1.5 that's already installed, flip it to the front to get it out of the way. Taking our 2 bow, we're going to align it for these knuckles to be on this tab. One thing to keep in mind, this tab on the 2 bow, we want it to be facing up, and the crown of the bow is going to swoop down. So similar to before, we line up the knuckles. Take another pivot knuckle screw from the kit. Using our T30, we're going to tighten this down. With this side tight, we're going to repeat on the other side. Okay, now with the 2 bow installed, we're going to move on to the 1.5 control link. And that's going to tie our 1.5 bow to our 2 bow. So to install, we want to look at the knuckles, make sure that the screws will be coming from the inside of the vehicle to the outboard. And we're going to be attaching it to the tab here on the 1.5 and the tab here on the 2. So starting up here at the 1.5, we're going to fit that knuckle. Take one of our pivot knuckle screws, get that started by hand, and using our T30 we'll tighten that up. With that tightened, we're going to flip the 1.5 back, allowing the pivot knuckle to fit to the 2 bow. Once again, another pivot knuckle screw. Finger tight to begin with, and then using our T30. One thing to keep in mind, once this is in place, we do have this isolator. We want to make sure that it is facing up and it's located underneath the 1.5 bow. Now that this side is complete, we're going to go ahead and repeat on the other side. The next step is we need to apply the 1 bow foams. To do that, we're going to take our completed linkage assembly, fold it to the front. We're going to go ahead and turn the 1 bow over, exposing the area where we're going to apply these foams. So the foam itself is cut out following the geometry of the 1 bow. To stick the foam on, we're going to align the long edge with the side of the 1 bow. So it's going to fall into place here. Profile is going to follow this. So to attach this, we're just going to take the PSA off the back. Put that in place. and then push it down. Now we'll repeat on the other side. Okay, with our foams installed, the last thing we're gonna do before carrying this over to the Bronco is we're gonna roll up the top deck. That's just gonna make it a little bit easier for us when we go to do that install. So to do that, we're gonna start with the rear halo and just loosely roll. So we're at the one bow, and now we're gonna be able to carry this over to the vehicle and finish the install. So to prep for the next step, which is going to be installing the soft top onto the vehicle itself, we're going to do a couple things real quick just to prep for it. We're going to take the bag that came in our soft goods kit, and we're going to lay it across the hood just to help protect it a little bit as we drape the fabric over. We're also going to fold in the mirrors, and we can pull off the antenna. This just helps once again when we go to install this on the vehicle itself. Okay, grab a buddy, and we're gonna carry the soft goods up and onto the vehicle. We're gonna let the back half drape onto the hood, carrying the header up and over, putting it into position, and we'll move on to the next step. For the next step, we're gonna install the pivot knuckles onto the main pivot bracket. To do that, we're gonna align the pivot knuckle with the bracket, and using our pivot knuckle screws, we're going to install these from the outside. Coming back with our T30s to tighten these up. Now that we have the one side complete, we'll repeat on the other side. Next, we're going to install our Tubo control link. Something to look at right before we put this in. There is a jog in the bow that's offset. We want to make sure that we keep that towards the rear of the vehicle. And we're going to be shooting our fasteners from the outside going in. So we're going to bring this up and on our link control bracket. We're going to slide that knuckle over. Put our pivot knuckle screw on, finger tight, and then come back with our T30 and tighten it all up. Okay, now that we have the rear pivot attached, we're going to attach the front pivot. To do that, we're going to take our bow assembly, flip it back, and as the tube bow comes down, we're going to align that tab with the pivot knuckle using our pivot knuckle screw. We're going to get that finger tight to start. Come back with our T30 to tighten it up. Now that we have that tight, we're going to repeat on the other side. Now with the help of a buddy, we're going to take our soft goods and we're going to put it over the vehicle. To do that, we're going to start at the rear halo. Holding on, we're going to take it all the way across, getting it close to the position at the rear, where the next step we can go in and actually tighten it down. So to finish this step where we're going to bolt down the rear halo, we're going to have to open the top. We're going to get it to about halfway open, and then that way we can shoot the screws from the front. It is beneficial to have a buddy help you with this, so we can get it up into position. They can help hold while you put those screws in place. Okay, so for this step, we're inside the vehicle. We're going to take an M6 by 15, and we're going to put one in on each side of the front of the rear halo bow. Make sure that this is aligned with the bracket. Put that in. Using our T30, we'll go ahead and tighten that up. Now we'll repeat on the other side. With the front two bolts installed in the rear halo, we're now going to install the rear two, so you can let the top come back. And we're going to reach up underneath with our M6x15. Insert that into the hole. Come back with our T30 to tighten that up. And we'll repeat on the other side. For the next step, we're going to take our upper quarter window retainer and we are going to install the side tension cable to it. To do that, we are going to take our barrel nut and we'll be inserting it into the hole in the rear. You do want to make sure these are handed components and you're looking for the hole to be in the rear. So once again, we're going to take this, we'll insert this from the back side, holding it in place where you can see it. So to do this, we're going to hold the rail in place, bring our cable down, holding that on top. We'll use the screw that's included with the barrel nut. And tighten that down into place. This is where you'll need your flathead screwdriver just to snug it up. And now we'll repeat on the other side. Now with the cable secure, we're going to go ahead and bolt in the upper quarter window retainers. To do that, there's 4 holes here on the bottom. Those are going to correspond to the 4 mounting points up here on these brackets. We're going to use the M6x15 out of our kit. And we're going to get this into position and shoot these in. It may make it a little bit easier for you if you do one in the front, one in the rear, or vice versa, and then we'll tighten everything up from there. Okay, so now that we have everything bolted into place, we're going to go ahead and close the top, latch it down so that we can put our quarter windows and our rear window in. So to close the top, we're just going to grab it, fold it forward, and we'll throw the latches. Okay, so to latch down your top, you're going to reach up and grab the handle that's been cast into the aluminum one bow. You're going to pull down, operate the latch by pulling forward, and then we'll reach over and do the same. The next step is going to be installing our rear window. To do that, the first thing we're going to do is flip up the corner, exposing the channel that the window is going to slide into, which is right here. And now we're going to take our rear window, making sure that the P-welt and the extrusion on the top are going to be facing the inside, this to the top. We're going to use this bullet on the end. We're going to feed that into the channel to pull this window across. Once we get it in, we're going to center it up, and then we'll install the tailgate bar. For installing the tailgate bar, we just want to make sure that we're in the correct orientation when we do so. That means that the seal is going to be facing out and down. We're going to be utilizing this channel to install the P-welt, which is on the window. So we're just going to go ahead and line that up. Feed it across, centering it up. And we're just going to let this rest for right now until we get the quarter windows in. On these rear corners, we're going to have to put this retainer that's back behind it around the rear molded piece. Now that we have that in place, we're going to slide the window in. It's a similar operation to the rear. There's a P-welt on top, and we're going to be feeding it into a C-channel on the vehicle. To finish up the install on the quarter window, we're going to install our vertical J retainer at the front. And then we're going to come around to the rear. We're going to pull the window rearward, and we're going to roll our corner into place. To do that, we want to make sure that we align these two bosses with the cutouts. And then once it's in place, we're going to use our snap. We're going to snap it in place. Before we do this, we will flip the rear window up just to give us a little more room to do so. With that in place, we can do the belt rail and move on to the next window. So we have the J channel on the bottom. We're going to put that in, press it down. Now this quarter window is completely installed. We're going to go ahead and do the same on the other side. Okay, with the quarter windows installed, we're going to now do the rear window. To do that, go ahead and reach up, pull the window down. We don't need to install the tailgate bar yet. We're going to come to the side. And once again, we have a J extrusion. Folds down in place into the channel. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other side, and then we'll install the tailgate bar. With all the quarter windows installed, the last step on the outside of the vehicle is to go ahead and pull our top deck down. We're going to shingle that over and make sure that the hook and loop is affixed on both sides. Now we'll move inside to finish up the listings. The final step is to attach the listings. There's 3 bows along here that we will have to do. There's a hook and loop pocket. You're going to go ahead and bring the hook down, and then you're going to wrap the loop to it. Once we finish the first one, we'll do the second 2. Now that we're done with the front listing, we'll repeat on the next 2. Okay, and with that, we have now completed the install on the new Besttop Trektop for 2-door Bronco. If you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to besttop.com or our customer service at the 1-800 number. Otherwise, look forward to seeing you out on the trails.